All right, welcome to part number 2 of our deep dive into the Snyder Cut Justice League. I am dad number 1 for this experience, Tyler.
And I am dad number 2 for this experience, Brett. And welcome back.
So I hope you enjoyed part 1 of our getting into the Snyder Cut, talking about Joss Whedon's cut of Justice League and Studio, and talking about Snyder Cut. And now, this is the part I'm going to say to you, spoiler alert ahead. We are talking about everything. And I do mean, well, as much as we possibly can with the amount of time we have. But we're talking about as much as we possibly can, and we are not going to stop and say spoiler alert. This is your only warning. Spoiler alert.
If you haven't seen it, number 1, why are you listening to this?
Go watch it.
Go watch it. Number 2, go watch it.
Go watch it. Yeah, I mean, we watched it last night. And I'm going to be honest with you, it is a slog when you watch it, from start to finish. But, most often when we watch this movie, it's broken up into sections and it's easier to do that. But honestly, watching it through from start to finish was still enjoyable.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
So,
I mean, it is broken up in, there are chapters, and, it is wise to do it that way. But it is broken up into chapters. It's very easy to just do, 40 minutes or so at a time. If you want to do it that way, you binge 3 or 4 episodes of a TV series in one evening if you really think about it, or 2 or 3 at a time. Very easy to do in a couple of days if you want to, or just watch a chapter a night for a week. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, we watched last night. We had lots of things we were saying to each other, and we also were trying not to say a lot of things because certain scenes there's nothing you can say without ruining it. So I guess, Brett, let's start at the very beginning, because Snyder's version of the movie, and that's all we're talking about today. We're not ragging on Joss Whedon. It's like that movie didn't even happen. Essentially, we're seeing milliseconds of what happened at the end of Batman v Superman.
Yes,
where Superman gets stabbed Superman stabs Doomsday with the kryptonite spear, and he is also in a weakened state, and Doomsday kills him. In that moment, he lets out a scream, and this scream somehow, some way, wakes the mother boxes. And from what we know of this movie, the mother boxes are 3 boxes that come together and create a world-ending machine that will destroy the universe. Well, the world.
Yeah, they're described as change engines. They're neither good nor evil. They change matter around. They reorganize it based upon the will of the wielder. And they are technology that is so far advanced that it is effectively magic to our own limited human intellect.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and to be fair, a lot of the alien tech, even the old alien tech, is so advanced compared to what we have. All of stuff from Man of Steel, the ships, those are ancient machines that are still better than the stuff that we have right now.
Oh, yeah, and I would expect if aliens were to show up at our doorstep tomorrow, I would expect nothing less than something so far advanced that we would not be able to make heads or tails of it.
Right, exactly. So, screams are let out. This is also a way so that way we can see basically the whole plane of the areas we're dealing with for this movie. We're dealing with Man's World. We're dealing with the Amazons. We're dealing with part of Atlantis, So it's a way for us to see, like, at the end of the last movie, where everybody is, and now in the exact moment of that movie of where others were too. So it's a great way to set up what is happening. And, I think after talking about that, one of the things I wanted to make sure is clear is that this movie could have easily been cut into a 3-hour movie / could have been given a wide release and done well.
Oh, it very easily could have, right. Yes.
And today we're talking specifically, we're not talking about the end stuff. We're talking about the actual main story of Justice League. So we're talking from Superman's scream to Superman's symbol.
Mm-hmm.
That's the movie we're talking about. I just want to make sure we're clear. We're not talking about Leto whatsoever. We're not talking about any of the stuff after the movie happened. Just we'll get to that later. But we're not talking about that today. So, Brett, what were your initial thoughts of the credit scene and also just leading into the first few minutes of the movie?
I was struck with just Snyder spent a lot of time in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman really setting up Superman as this alien figure that stands apart from humanity at such a level that he is human and he has a very deep humanity, but at the same time, it has to be balanced with he is above humanity and he is seen as a godlike figure. And uh, I have been a comic book junkie since I was in high school, and I have been a strong follower of Superman's adventures since oh well since then, and I have many in my collection since that predate that, and to see someone actually take the time to take that kind of care where in the original Death of Superman comic series, that event, you see the impact of the blows that shatter glass and buildings in the area. You see the devastation that happens. And yes, in Batman v Superman, we saw a lot of devastation take place. But this opening, we get to see just this scream reverberate. And here is this alien figure who has powers and abilities that are far beyond mortal man, so to speak. And his death wail, as it is, it would make so much sense to me that for him to, he is sacrificing everything he has to stop this creature. So for him to put everything he has into that last push, for him to let everything out in that last moment, that's going to have some really, really strong reverberations on that level.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes sense. And it's not something that I've ever really thought about. But for him to yell like that, it's going to have some real impact. And to see that displayed, it runs underwater, it runs across continents. Snyder is building Superman as a real cornerstone in his vision of the DC universe.
Mm-hmm.
And even in his death, it is an unmistakable building block that is needed in this world. And so that opening sequence is just it's a strong start for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, and there's a beauty to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things that is a theme, I think, throughout the whole movie is that there is just beauty in almost every scene. You know, something majestic about each of these abilities that these godlike beings have.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Yeah.
I would also be remiss if we didn't talk about the ratio being different. Because even last night, whenever we started this movie, I went, something's wrong with the screen. I'm like, oh no, the ratio is different. And it works.
Mm-hmm.
You see everything super well. Everything. I think sometimes with widescreen, you lose some of the intimacy because you're trying to have such a large screen. So just the large beings felt large.
It does. I do a lot of framing in my day job, and I typically have to shoot in a 16:9 ratio, and I'm someone who in a cinematic experience prefers to watch in a 16:9 format. But and initially I kind of pushed back at the idea that this was going to be in this type of a ratio, but it does work. And the characters are, we mentioned before the whole Marvel versus DC type of characters. The DC figures are very much Marvel is, these are flawed heroes.
Mm-hmm.
These are very human heroes with flaws. DC's characters are very much, these are icons. And in this opening sequence, we get an iconic figure who is dying. We get the beauty of the world shaking because an icon has passed. And we're introduced to a bunch of other icons that we're going to really get to explore.
So one of those icons, as we get to pretty quickly, is Arthur Curry, also known as the Aquaman.
The Aquaman.
So the scene is in Justice League, so we're not going to get much into it. Just basically, he's in a village. He knows that Aquaman is there, and he wants to talk to him. And he's he's waiting to see if he'll reveal himself. He doesn't, so he reveals him for him. And everybody knows what's happening up until the point that he starts speaking in their language, which is a nice little. Because I don't know if that was in the original movie or not, but
I don't remember it being.
It felt very much like a. Yeah, I knew you were making fun of me the whole time type of.
It's definitely a very Batman move for him to be portrayed as, I'm kind of the fish out of water. But by the way, I'd known the whole time what you were saying.
And
I've been in on the joke.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that because I think the difference between this Bruce Wayne and any other Bruce Waynes we've seen before is he is Bruce Wayne, but he is the Bruce Wayne who is acting as Batman. He's not wearing the mask, but he is him. He's not trying to play the playboy philanthropist or anything like that. He is being the Batman.
Yeah, he is. The lines have blurred. He's been Batman so long that the lines have really blurred. He can throw on that playboy act, but really the lines are just so blurred for him that he's almost perfected it.
Yep. And so they have this conversation. It's very similar to the one that's in Justice League, so we don't have to get into it. But the difference in this is he walks away. He flat out says no. That's it. That's no. And Batman's not trying to try to give him some sort of speech to make him come along. He's just like, but come on, I presented you the evidence, and you should just come with us. Yep. He's not trying to play coach.
And it shows a legitimate weakness in Batman. He's never. He in this history, he's had a partner, but he's never been a team player. Yes.
Well, he's always been the boss. Technically he is Alfred's super or boss. Even though he says I work for him.
But honestly, Alfred's really more dad but employee. So
he's his employee. And anytime he's had a Robin before this, he is his sidekick. So he's always in charge.
Yes.
So he doesn't know how to convince people.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And
he has to learn. But we have probably one of the first scenes that probably should have been shortened and or cut. And that is the Icelandic women singing a song of joy and happiness of, the Aquaman coming, being grateful to him. And you have to imagine that isn't the only time they've done this. It's probably like every time he leaves, they sing basically his praises as he.
Yeah, I mean, it strikes me as a ritual. I mean, this is something that he's known to do regularly. So I mean, he comes with the king tide. This is something they do regularly. But yes, I agree. This is probably something that it didn't have to be in there. It's a nice touch that it's in there, but
I will say the way it transitions though from, young woman who's clearly desperate and in need to Martha Kent, a woman who is older but in desperate need and hurting and suffering. It is done well, and it reminds you of this is still the Man of Steel world that we're dealing with. The ramifications of Man of Steel, we're dealing with them. So, and there's no joke being made about what her and Lois Lane are doing or anything like that, but it's just a nice quick shot of, hey, remember, with Clark not being there, who is she there to lean on? No one.
Yeah, Jonathan died years ago. Clark is gone. It's she had a job at the diner previously, but she got behind on the payments in the house, and her son's in the ground, and
that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, then we have the first scene with Alfred Pennyworth. By the way, Jeremy Irons as Alfred is just amazing.
I love Jeremy Irons as Alfred.
Every Alfred has done the character well and with justice, but there's something about an old Alfred who's dealt with this man his whole entire life, who has watched him decay and become almost this monster himself, and the fact that he's just like, maybe someone who spent most of his life brooding in a cave isn't meant to be a recruiter.
I love that line. Yeah, and Irons, when Irons was first cast in the role, I was excited because I love Irons as an actor. And like you said, every Alfred actor has brought something different to the role. And Irons brings he manages to combine that fatherly voice with just enough sass that he's not really dad, but he's right there with them.
Well, he almost has an older brother relationship now. It's almost like a relationship that Bruce would have with the Robins. I like that. Then we go to Lois Lane. We see her mourning. We see her, this is her new routine. She's not returned back to work yet. She's not trying to, get away. She wakes up, she goes and sees a statue, and she's just trying to get through. She is in trauma, dealing with her grief.
Yep.
And it's nice to see her like that. It's nice to see her, dealing with the fact that she lost not just Superman, but the love of her life.
Yes. And by nice, you don't mean that it's nice to see her in pain. It's nice to see it depicted.
Yeah, it's nice to see it depicted well and with purpose. Because I don't want to complain about Justice League the whole time, but I didn't feel like she was really hurting. It almost like she was putting on a brave face.
The weight wasn't fully there.
Right. And I don't want to speak about our wives, but I would imagine that if anything were to happen to us, knock on wood, that our wives would not just be able to bounce right back and get right back to work.
Well, we could ask your wife. She just walked past.
Don't. I don't want to know how useless
you don't want to know the answer to that one.
At the end of the day, this is a woman who is grieving the loss of who she hoped would be her soulmate. Well, Brett, we get to an interesting scene right after this, though, after sitting in some trauma for a few moments. And that is the retelling of the bank heist with Wonder Woman. Now, I don't know why this was included in the Justice League, because it's so quick. There's a robbery, and they just have a bomb they're about to blow, and then she gets in there, she stops it, she stops the bad guy. And this, we have a whole scene of her scoping things out, which she does do in Justice League, but she takes time. She goes and interrogates a guy. She gets real information. And then, when she storms in, she takes down everybody. Like, there is no one standing, including the main bad guy, when she first comes through. She gets the bomb. She goes up and she gets into the sky. I don't know why they shortened it in Justice League, but they did. And everything is clear. The bad guy is about to shoot children, and who stops him? Wonder Woman. One time? No. There's like 50 rounds that he fires, and she stops them all. And I just love this scene because it ends with, well, her choosing to use her one ability to basically fry a guy. I like that we set that up of how powerful that move is for her. But B, when she's done, she's checking in on everyone. Are you okay? Are you okay? There's a little girl who's doesn't seem to be okay. What's she say to her, Brett? You okay, princess? And her response is, when I grow up, I want to be like you. You can grow up and be anything. That's Wonder Woman.
Yep.
That is the character. That is the inspiring of, I am woman, hear me roar. I can do this better than any man. You think Batman could have done what I did? No.
No. But Batman would have freaked out everyone in the room.
True. But, at the end of the day, there's something special about this scene that is so crucial to this telling of the hopefulness that this character has. She's not in the darkness anymore. She went through her time period of being hurt and trauma filled, and it's almost like when Doomsday came, it rewoken something in her that she realized she needed to be more than just around.
Yeah, and that's another thread that runs through. You bring up the beauty and everything, but another thread that really runs through is hope.
Anywho, we go back to the Amazons. And unfortunately, the Amazons have an issue.
That they do.
That issue is a 9-foot tall, razor blade wearing, axe wielding.
Can we call him Horny Guy?
Giant monster of a being called Steppenwolf.
Steppenwolf.
He's not coming in with a British accent. He's not coming in talking about his mother. He's just this animal.
He is, and his character design, and I'll just briefly touch. I touched on it in our first part, but his character design is so much more on the level of what the New Gods would have been within Zack Snyder's vision. Now, within the comic books, no, Steppenwolf is really more human looking. Okay, fine. But within the universe that Zack Snyder set up, with Darkseid being who he is, with Desaad being who he is, Steppenwolf fits as this 9-foot tall, razor blade wearing, 7-finger having, horns out the side of his head, animalistic dude. He's so much more intimidating in this than just a really bland CGI created British fop. And he carries so much more weight on the screen in these sequences where he's supposed to be terrorizing the Amazons, the Atlanteans, the Justice League, whoever he's going up against. I actually buy the weight behind him swinging an axe at them, the viciousness of him growling his lines at them.
Well, that's the thing, is that, like, the Amazons didn't know what was going to come for the boxes. All they knew was that they needed to protect it. And they did everything they could to keep it away from him. But nothing they did truly affected him. He is in a class above what they thought they were going to have to deal with. And you could argue that this version of Steppenwolf, again, spoilers towards the future of the movie, but we learn that Darkseid is the one that came to Earth. And you could argue that the Steppenwolf we see now is stronger, more intimidating, and a greater warrior than that Darkseid at the time. So him coming in, basically not affected by their weapons at all. In fact, I love the part where he has 8 arrows in his armor, and he just flinches, and all of them just are gone. And I remember, because as we were sitting there watching, Toby was with us at first, and he's like, "I have no idea what's happening." And I go, "Do you see that guy? He is the bad guy." And he goes, "Why are they trying to use those old weapons against them?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, they are Amazonian, so they're more than just old weapons, yada yada. But still, they don't have a chance."
They don't have any chain guns.
No. So yeah, and unfortunately, he gets the first box, and he gets it, honestly, really easily. It's kind of sad, unfortunately.
Yes.
But also, it could play into the fact of how much they relied upon the old gods to get that box to begin with.
Yeah, because this is, I mean, and we'll play a little bit ahead of time, but in the original, in the original battle, we're talking the old gods, the Atlanteans, the armies of man, and the Amazonians in combined forces, along with at least one Green Lantern, all together to fight off the armies of Apocalypse. So just a group, one Amazonian army of, a few dozen fighting off Steppenwolf and, a couple dozen parademons coming through the boom tube. You really don't stand a chance.
Mm-hmm. So that's the first part.
Mm-hmm.
A lot happens. Oh, my goodness. So in this second part, we find where Steppenwolf actually sets up camp. That's good. He needs to.
Yes, he does.
In the original movie, you only really come to him once or twice there, and you come to him quite a few times. That's the only reason I'm bringing it up, because his character has an arc.
He does.
As really bad as he is, he has an arc.
He's not just a generic vanilla bad guy. He actually has some story here.
Mm-hmm. And it cuts to Bruce Wayne, Alfred. They're having a conversation, trying to figure out how to find the other two. That's all I'm saying about that, because there's so much to get to. We're introduced to Silas Stone. He is the father of Victor Stone, Cyborg, and we're seeing little bits and pieces. And I only bring that up because his character is actually important in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the Amazons sending out a special arrow, and Diana knowing exactly what that is, and so she goes to investigate, and she ends up learning that it's not just a warning sign. It's a little bit more than that, Brett.
Yes, a little bit of Indiana Jones exploration.
Yeah, and it's a really cool cave painting of Darkseid, I gotta say.
Yes, it does make sense that underneath the Greek Parthenon there would be some sort of historical account of what happened. But yeah, I found it intriguing.
Yeah. Well, and then we run into Victor Stone, Cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
We did see a brief image of him at one point. But basically Victor is or Silas is trying to be like, hey, Victor, life can still go on. Like, you can still live a full life. And he's kind of just like, look at me. You did this.
Victor has been dealt so much trauma. I mean, he's certified genius. He was captain of the football team. I mean, he was on track for so much in this world. A great relationship with his mom. Dad was, didn't come to his games. And, we see this strained relationship with his dad. And it's no surprise that Victor is so resistant to any attempt on Silas's part to reach out to him.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's a great scene. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. Probably one of the most touching scenes in the whole movie. We get to another scene that was in Justice League of ship being in distress, and Aquaman coming to save the day.
Mm-hmm.
He saves him, gets a whiskey, and then he is off. And I made a comment to you, and I'm willing for us to talk about this a little bit, Brett. Because as he's walking across into the sea, there's a giant tidal wave that's going off, and good Lord, I wonder if they did that for real. I can't imagine they did, but it looks amazing and it's beautiful. And as he's walking, it's the sadness almost of he's only useful for small things. He goes and saves people, then he takes them back. He brings people food, and it's almost like he doesn't know what his purpose is with these gifts. What does he do with all this? Like, what he can swim, he can talk to sea creatures, but what does that mean for him? Like, he's a man searching for something.
Yeah, and we find out throughout the movie his mother left him on the doorsteps of a lighthouse keeper. He didn't know her, and so, he found out that she's some high up queen. He has this noble heritage for him, but he didn't know her.
Yes, we find that out through Willem Dafoe.
Yes. Who, man, the fact that he was cut from Justice League fully was just criminal.
Well, it's a short scene, and I get why they cut it in the end to save time. But like, he has the gear, he has the trident. It makes sense how he gets the stuff. Because in the other version, you have no idea where did he get that stuff. What is all this? Like, he full-blown says, "This is an armor almost built for you. This is her trident. Go." And he's like, "I don't want to." So it's interesting. And the credit that I'll give, it's something that is curious for me in my take, because there's just a part of me that likes from Justice League how he just didn't give a crap about anything until one or two people he cared about got attacked. Then he cared. There's a part of me that did like that, and like that little rockishness, and kind of made the scene cool. But just, there's a part of this movie that feels like everyone is dealing with something emotionally, socially, that they need to work through before they're ready to get into the fight. So there's also part of it too, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
The bigger thing I'm happy is there's no green ooze on the guy. That's nice. So Brett, I have a question for you. Who is Desaad?
Desaad. Oh, Desaad. Within the realm of DC lore, Desaad is Darkseid's right-hand torturer supreme. You want someone put to the rack, Desaad is the guy to go to, and he designs all of these ways to just implement pain and suffering on people. He's there to cause pain. That's really what he does. And usually he's portrayed as kind of like this hunched over, mousy little guy that, you could take out, you could lay him out with just one good punch. But even within what they built him as in this, he still is very much less than Darkseid and Steppenwolf.
Yeah, I got the feeling like Darkseid's interested in his mind, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, he is, for all intents and purposes, he has Darkseid's ear.
Yeah,
but that's really all he has.
That's fair. I will say, like, as much as I am a fan of superheroes and all that jazz, I'm not the expert when it comes to comic book lore. And so, like, all of a sudden the character like Desaad comes up and I'm like, who the heck is that guy? Because, like, Mother Good is there. I recognize her.
Granny Goodness.
Yes, Granny Goodness,
yes,
sorry.
Yes.
I recognize her. I do recognize Steppenwolf, but, like, outside of the whole Justice League, and Darkseid clearly. But, like, Desaad was the first person that came up. I'm like, who the heck is this guy? What's his deal? What's the point? And then at the end of the movie, it almost kind of clicked for me. We'll get to that a little bit later, but he just kind of says to Darkseid, "I told you so." Almost like he is the being who is going to inform Darkseid of probably, like, in a way, like the mathematical most likelihood of things. Maybe he's just the Sheldon of Darkseid's group. But he knows not to say too much.
Yes. Would that make Steppenwolf the Raj or the Howard?
Well, Howard goes off to space. But Raj is the one who is constantly in search of love and messes up and doesn't understand what he's doing wrong. And I guess this is the point that we could say that what I like about Steppenwolf is that he is trying to get home. And his hope is with finding the mother boxes and unifying them, that it'll be enough for Darkseid to say, welcome back. You did enough.
He wants restored.
Yes, he does. And, he just says, like, you owe him. You betrayed him, your own family. He says, I saw my mistake and I slaughtered those who sought his throne. And you have to wonder, what happened? That's the movie I want to see. Apocalypse cometh. But yeah, no, almost both of them have this worship of Darkseid. And that's all they're trying to do this for. And it's not this whole mother thing that was going on in the other movie. It's just Darkseid. That's who we're trying to make happy.
Darkseid is.
Yes. And then Bruce Wayne and Wonder Woman end up having a conversation, not across the lake, just straight up in his troop carrier, because he's doing stuff, so he's gonna listen, and he's gonna keep doing the things he's doing.
Exactly.
Trying to get the thing to fly. And I like that Wonder Woman is literally able to give him the exposition, yes, that he needs. He needs to understand what these things are. He needs to understand why they're trying to find them, what the purpose is, where they are. And I didn't feel like I got that in the other one. If that makes sense. Like, it didn't make a whole a sense. And I like that the point goes, wait, what is that? Wait, explain that a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's when we get to this old battle between Darkseid and the old gods and a Green Lantern and the Amazons and the Atlantans and humans. And I love the different types of human groupings that were in there. You can see some Hans, you can see some knights, different warrior clans of that time, which is so cool. So you have to wonder how long they knew this was going on and happening.
Yeah.
Because it kind of felt like everyone gathered that day, they had the battle, and then they won.
And then they went away.
Right. So, but yeah, just watching as these beings take down Darkseid and almost kill him is pretty incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And we see this young version of Darkseid.
Ares nearly cut his head off.
And you have to wonder why they didn't finish the job. Because they had him on the ropes and could have ended everything. It was enough of a victory for them to say, yep, he's gone. They went away.
Yeah, I mean, I think their biggest fault there is short-sightedness and just driving them off-world.
I will say, I've seen the meme that's like DC's version of Zeus, and it's the super buff guy who just keeps making lightning bolts, and Marvel's version is Russell Crowe in a fat suit.
Yeah.
It's like there's a difference between these two
Just
groups.
a little bit of one.
But then, Brett, we get to one of the greatest scenes, I think, arguably ever in a superhero movie. We see a young Barry Allen saying to himself, I'm so late. I'm so very late. And he walks to a pet store, and he's apparently late for an interview. And the lady says, resume? He goes, yes, resume.
Barry is so socially awkward, and it's a young Barry Allen that's socially awkward. It's not something you normally see portrayed to this extent within the comics lore, but I love it.
It's great. It's just he's trying so hard to be relatable. Resume.
A pocket monster. Pocketlet.
Oh gosh. Anywho, so while all this is happening, Barry almost runs into a woman who is a young woman, pretty woman, who we it doesn't say it in the movie, but we know it's Iris West.
Yep.
Because that's something that Zack Snyder said.
Yes.
And because she was casted to be that character. And so, for those who don't know, that is a very important character to Barry Allen, a love interest, if you will. And I think you actually referred to her as Iris Allen in the other part.
I think I probably did, yeah. Dude, we had 9 years of The Flash on the CW, so...
So anywho, there is a semi-truck barreling down in the middle of Central City, and for some reason, he's going way too fast. His
big belly burger falls.
For whatever reason, his braking is not operational. As a CDL driver...
I knew you'd have an issue with this, too.
I know for a fact that you're not going into a town that fast. And also, you have the ability to park your bus super quick. Just throw on the park and brake, reach down, get your nasty gross burger, put it back up, hit the button, and you're back on the road. I don't know any driver that would think, oh, I'm just going to move my head away from the direction that it's going. It doesn't happen. I can't speak for all semi drivers, but any CDL driver that I have met and talked with, they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, my brother drives a rig, and I've meant for a while now to ask him about his thoughts on that, if he knows any drivers that are that irresponsible.
Irresponsible, I could understand that. But the moment you take your eyes off the road as a CDL driver, you are probably going to kill somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's why this scene is in here, because he took his eyes off the road for 1 second and someone probably should have died. And the only reason it didn't, and the only reason why he kept going was because the Flash saved the day.
Yep.
But also his truck should be out of commission if he actually like destroys a car like that.
Yeah, it looked like it probably would be.
Yeah. I think you talked briefly about this in the other...
I did, yes.
Well, but I just want to express that we literally watch as he forces his powers to start immediately before he even moves. He knows something bad's going to happen, so he jump starts the speed force in a way. And you see him turn in his shoes. You see the liquid that he's making the glass as he's going through it. And this is the scene, Brett. This is the moment. I mentioned this before when you were offline, but this is the moment that I went, this is what I was waiting for. Because I left the original Justice League going, where is that moment? That moment from the trailer I remember of the glass and looking like water. Like, that was so cool in the trailer. Why is that not in here? And here it is. And I was like, oh my gosh. So he pushes the glass, make it look like water, and he gets out there. And you watch as he carefully gets out into the street. And almost like a parent, as your child is up kind of high, you're just kind of figuring out what angle you want to go to protect your child and make sure they're safe. Like as my son got into climbing up high on playgrounds, a lot of times I would do that at first, and now I back away because I'm like, he has this. But very carefully, very gently, very, very specifically, he adjusts Iris so that way he is not forcing it too quickly, and he is not affecting her like immediately, and kind of allowing her momentum to still carry her, but just carrying her to stop. And so all of it is just beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
So I'm just happy that the hot dog was not an innuendo and it was just about a meat snack for dogs. But yeah, just this whole scene is just incredible. And this is one of those scenes that if you haven't seen it yet, again, why are you listening to us? You should just be watching it. But when you watch this scene, you understand something is different in this movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, don't let us just describe it for you. Go watch it, and then come back.
Yeah, even if you have already watched it, go watch it again.
Yeah.
Even if you just watch this scene, I've watched this scene probably more than I've watched the actual movie. This is a scene that just that fills me with emotions and just is incredible.
Yeah, so pause this right now, go watch it, and then come back. We'll talk more.
Yeah, exactly. We get Steppenwolf hunting for the Atlantean mother box. And Diana and Bruce Wayne trying to figure out. And they decide that Bruce Wayne is going to go see if he can talk with the Flash. And Diana's going to try to see if she can find out more stuff about Cyborg. And we get into a flashback, Brett. A very emotional, very important, almost heart of the movie type importance.
Yes, very much so.
Where we meet Dr. Stone. And we discover that, Vic is the captain of his football team, and he is one of the top-rated students at their school. And he's used his hacking abilities, apparently, to change the grading of one of his friends. And I love how Dr. Stone just goes, well, you know that her family is going through a lot right now. So what did you do to make it easier on her while she's going through this? And his response was nothing. She goes, so it feels like my son was just doing your job for you then.
Yep.
So, and if you're someone who's going through a lot, especially really emotional stuff like a loss of a close family member, or hey, your roommate goes missing, in your freshman year, there is grace for those people. I received that because I remember walking around like I didn't know what was going on, and my professors knew he's going through a lot right now. We need to be kind to him. So how this school wasn't getting that, I don't understand. But we get one of the most, I don't keep saying this, but one of the most beautiful scenes. Brett, this is probably one of the best shot, like one play of a football I've ever seen. I legit want a Zack Snyder football movie. I think he could nail it. I need him to get someone to do more realistic versions of football, but everything I saw was terrific. Also, Wisconsin agreed to license out their stuff to this. Interesting.
Very much so.
So I wonder if they're in the Big Ten.
I wonder if Zack Snyder's got some Wisconsin alumni connections there.
Oh, could be.
I've never really gone deep into his educational past, but I think he might have some connections there.
That is interesting. But we learn that his father, Silas Stone, is not there. And his mom is trying to encourage him afterwards of, hey, your dad wanted to be here, but he just couldn't. And he's like, stop trying to make excuses for him. And then, unfortunately, they get into a car accident. And I don't want to downplay this car accident, but like, this is the car accident that caused Cyborg to become who he is in a sense, because he is missing many limbs. Like, this must have been like one of the most horrific car accidents ever.
He's in the passenger seat. His mom did not make it. He's not going to make it. He's laying in the bed. He's already lost an arm.
He has body pieces.
I mean, he's lost an arm visibly. We're led to believe that he's lost both legs under the sheets. So, I mean, he's not expected to make it. So, I mean, that car was, I mean, just plowed through.
Yeah. So it's just, you see that things are horrible for him. And he lost the one person that he felt he could be himself around.
Yep.
And now he is left with a parent that he doesn't even know if he can trust, which is hard. And I think this is one of the reasons why I want to make sure we talked about this movie, especially through the Dads Meet World lens, is because as a dad, as a parent, but mostly as a dad, when you're not there for your kid, when you're not able to talk these things through with them, it's hard for them to realize you're doing all these things because of them. Like, I could explain to my son, I do it quite often. I go, well, I'm going to go work this little bit over here because I want you to be able to do the things you want to do. If you want to go play a sport, if you want to go, do a certain activity, if you want to go on a field trip, if you want to go on vacation with family friends, these are the things that dad has to do so that we can do those things. So, and it's just, sometimes he gets it, sometimes he doesn't. And either way, he's like, I want you around me all the time. It's like, well, I'd love to be. And that's why I love Alan Matthews saying, if I had it my way, I'd never have to go to work. You would never have to go to school. And we just always spend our time together.
Yeah. And you hope that as they get older that they'll catch on to that. And to a large extent, if you lay the groundwork early enough, they do. But Silas didn't. Silas did not lay that groundwork early. And it's made very apparent that he has screwed up. And he is trying, when he makes this last-ditch effort to save Victor's life, that he is trying so hard to make up for lost time.
Yeah. Well, and it's in this moment when he loses his wife, he almost loses his son, and he swears an oath, basically, to do everything he can to keep him alive. Even if that means making him into a monster. You could argue that he is essentially Frankenstein. He created Frankenstein's monster. But I like that Silas sees him as more than that. He sees him potentially to be able to do more than just be a monster.
Yep.
he can become a Superman-like being.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how we get into the recording and he says, essentially all technology is at your fingertips.
Yep.
You can hack into anything. You can do literally anything technology-wise.
Nothing we can do can keep you out of it.
He's like, if you want to bring the world economy down with a thought, you can do that. If you want to launch
fire
every single
nuclear
nuke,
missile, and nothing anyone can do can stop it.
And I like they show the visual of him looking at the nukes and kind of just giving a thought and like, no, let's just put that over to the side. And at the end of the day, what does he do to show his powers, Brett? Does he rob a bank? Does he, does he decide to do something selfish? No, he sees a woman in crisis and decides to, in a way, rob a bank. But, at the end of the day,
figuratively speaking,
to
yes,
give her a helping hand, and it's just one of those moments of pure, again, beauty. Who is he going to help? He's going to help a single mom.
Yep.
Because essentially in his mind, that's who his mom was.
Yep. Single mom who's trying her best to make a life for her kid.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we get to another father now trying to do his best, a little too late. And that's Henry Allen, Barry Allen's father. And he just, this moment where he says to him, you're wasting your time. Don't worry about me anymore. You need to live your life. So you have one dad trying desperately to hold on and the other dad trying to say, you need to take care of yourself. And if you keep worrying about me, all you're going to do is drag yourself down. Just going from one to the other dichotomy is just crazy. But it fits and it works. How'd you feel about this scene, Brett?
Oh, it's heartbreaking to see. I mean, this is a man who has spent, nigh on 20 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. He's accused of killing his wife. So he lost his wife and his son in the same day. And the only way he can see his son is through plexiglass while sitting in a prison jumpsuit. And he has to watch his son grow up without him. And the only connection his son has to him really anymore is pursuing a career in criminal justice to try and find a way to prove his own innocence. And I mean, that's just, that is so heartbreaking. And so he makes this choice that the only way he can give his son any semblance of life, of a normal life, is to say, leave me behind. And that, to him, that is the best way he can show love to his son.
Yep.
And that's just heartrending to me.
It is. It truly is. But again, from the original version, you didn't have this moment. They may have said the same words, but it didn't cut the way this one does. And also, I like that he says, I want you to make your own future. You're living in the past. And I just think that rings in his ear just so much in this moment of he's living in the past. He needs to make his own future. And kind of thinking like, well, what future is there without you? We then transition. We see him walking and you see him going into a shipping yard. And how did he get this place here? Who cares? But he puts a battery in, turns the lights on, and a bunch of stuff comes on. And who's sitting there besides Bruce Wayne?
In his second favorite chair.
Yes, I love that. Just, you say that like explains who you are. Don't know who you are. You're sitting in my second favorite chair. And I love this interaction between the two of them. Batman's trying to goad him, being like, just say who you are. I know who you are. Just say who you are. He's like, I don't know what you're saying, man. He's definitely, who you're talking about is very handsome, though, for sure. Very handsome indeed.
Maybe, drinks milk. I don't drink milk.
He drinks milk. I don't drink milk. Kind of looks like a hippie. It is just this moment where he's just like, trying to... He's so awkwardly trying to avoid things. And then Batman throws that batarang.
Oh, yeah.
And just watching his face kind of light up.
That realization is just fantastic.
It's that one scene from the trailer that no matter what version still looks good no matter what. But this version, just watching him really taking it in every possible second until the last moment he grabs the batarang and just looks at him like, you're the Batman.
Mm-hmm.
You're him.
So you're fast.
Yeah, so you're fast.
I feel like that's an oversimplification. But he is so quick to jump on that offer to join up.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce is genuinely shocked by it just like that.
I'm going to read it real quick. I'm putting together a team. People with special abilities. You see, I believe enemies are coming. Stop right there. I'm in. You are? Just like that? Yeah, I need friends.
Yeah.
He's a millennial. And of course, he asks him, what's your superpower? I'm rich.
Bruce is rich and Barry's a snack hole.
Yeah. But I mean, okay, the DC characters are these god beings on Earth. And Bruce Wayne is the only one that is man. However, as Batman, he becomes something greater than just a man. He becomes this symbol, something that is larger and looms more over people. And, you know, probably is smarter than almost most of the other people around him.
Mm-hmm.
Just his brain works in such different ways. And instead of, say, becoming a scientist and really diving into that, it's almost like he had to know everything about as many things as much as he possibly could. And so he probably was that kid that would not do some schoolwork because he was working on other stuff that had nothing to do with the stuff he was supposed to be learning about.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of person we're dealing with. You know, one of our old friends, you know, would often delay doing one assignment because he was working on another assignment. Bruce Wayne seemed the type of guy who would eventually do all his assignments, but he was, you know, studying a whole heck of a lot of other things.
Yeah.
So we get this great scene between Wonder Woman and Alfred about tea, and it's so useless, but it's so wonderful.
It does not advance the plot at all, period, but it is a fantastic character moment where Wonder Woman just, Diana just wants to make a cup of tea, and Alfred, because of his training and his upbringing and his role, he's just, it is torture to him to watch someone else prepare their own tea. He needs to prepare the tea for her
because that is his. He is Wadsworth. He is head of the kitchen and dining room. He has to do it right, and he wants to do it right, and he wants her to get the best service possible, and she is refusing. Mm-hmm. So it's driving him crazy. That's a Clue reference for those of you that don't watch that movie. Another great movie, Clue. Cyborg contacts her through the computer system.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be worrisome for Batman, of how easy it was for Cyborg to get in there.
Probably, but at the same time, I mean, no system is going to ever be immune to Cyborg ever because of who he is. So there's no way that Bruce can ever protect his systems. So
we get our first shot of Commissioner Gordon.
Yes.
Unfortunately, one of the most wasted characters in the whole thing. Commissioner Gordon, J.K. Simmons, thanks for coming.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe that man got ripped for this movie.
I know. Honestly, it was such a wasted moment for him.
So yeah, Diana and Cyborg end up having a conversation, and Cyborg has some very choice words for the world and for Wonder Woman. If you guys didn't know, this movie is rated R.
Yes,
it's rated R for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and granted, yes, it is a hard R for the violence, period. But yes, there is some language that gets thrown around.
But it's not unjustified.
Oh, no.
It's not thrown around all the time. It's not thrown around for any reason other than for importance.
This is not a movie that was just filmed in Boston for the fun of it.
Oh, man. Could you imagine Ben Affleck as Batman in a Boston accent?
Ben Affleck of Good Will Hunting era. Oh, you like them apples. Them apples.
Yeah, so it's just Bruce Wayne, Barry Allen, Diana Prince, and they need to get ready because there's a bat signal out there.
That's your secret. Oh, yeah. Sorry, secret.
Yes. Unfortunately, though, we get interrupted because, well, you know how easy it was for Steppenwolf to take away the Amazon's mother box? Well, unfortunately, the Atlanteans didn't do any better.
No, they did not.
It didn't take as long. However, the moment that Mara is trying to suck out the blood from Steppenwolf is just awesome and, for lack of better wording, badass. As she's trying to take it away from him. Apologies for those that are listening with younger people, but it's just incredible, that little moment. And if Steppenwolf didn't find a way to sneak off, maybe she could have gotten him.
Yeah, because I mean, if you had viewed it and you weren't quite sure, not all, but some of the more practiced Atlanteans do have control over water and how to manipulate it. And, well, what is blood? Blood is water. So
water for the body.
Yes. So Mira and Volko and a few others, Volko being Willem Dafoe, and a handful of others, will be able to manipulate water, create pockets of oxygen so they can talk and not have to do the whole sometimes often viewed as campy telepathy talking in a movie scene. If Steppenwolf had not, I mean, she gets a real damage done to Steppenwolf, but Atlanteans don't fare any better than the Amazons did. No. So it's up to the armies of man who, how did they hide their mother box? They sealed it. They sealed it in a bigger box and buried it in a hole in the woods. Yeah. Which I always laugh at.
Not a good call. Anywho, but Mara and Aquaman do have a conversation of her just saying, hey, if your mother was here, she would see it was her responsibility to go follow him up to the surface world and fight him. And he's just like, but I don't want to. She's like, but it's your responsibility.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of my my youngest son. I don't like when people tell me what I don't want to hear.
Yeah. But Steppenwolf and Desaad end up having another conversation. Just let him know, hey, man, I found another one. I'm doing a really good job. And he's just like,
I got 2 out of 3.
Let us know when you gotten the job done.
Tell us when you actually do your job.
Tell us when you actually do something.
You want a medal or a chest to pin it
on? So we get this awesome scene of Batman, the Flash, and Wonder Woman answering the call. And of course, Commissioner Gordon, how many of you are there? Not enough. And of course, Cyborg does end up showing up, which is terrific. And they end up having a conversation about where they need to go. And then they're about to go there. Unfortunately, however, Commissioner Gordon turns around for a moment. Batman, Wonder Woman, and Cyborg disappear, leaving the Flash.
There he is still. This is a genuinely humorous moment where Barry is just looks around and everyone's like, "Oh, wow, they do that to you too." It's like that's
rude.
That's rude. It is not forced humor. It is so organic to the moment, and it's hilarious.
Well, and we're getting to our first Steppenwolf with Justice League fight. And what I like about this is they're about to go towards that. Batman almost is willing to take a backseat to Wonder Woman as far as fighting the bigger being and letting her say what they're going to do, almost like a general allowing for a captain or a major to be like, okay, this is what we're doing. I'm going to lead us through, and the general's here just in case, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And so, she's like, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. And I just love how Cyborg looks at Batman like, I didn't think you were real.
I'm real when it's convenient.
So awesome. And of course, Steppenwolf is interrogating people, trying to figure out where it is. Silas stands up, and Victor can't help himself, regardless of what their relationship is like. Regardless of what his dad has done to him or what he has not been there for, he's still his dad. And he sees that a monster is in front of his father, and he becomes protective immediately.
Oh, yes.
And, jumping a little ahead, because we're talking about it, when eventually they have a conversation, like his dad, it's almost like he wants to apologize. He wants to reconcile. He's like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. And it's just showing a growth in his walk. And sometimes for some people, your parents aren't there for you the way you need them to be, and it's accepting of who they are and how they were there for you, and it's okay, and that it takes time and growth to do that. So potentially, it might not be a long period of time, but Victor has had what he has needed to be able to at least accept his dad as who he is, and that's great. And again, we talked about this before in part 1, but, Flash doesn't need coaching up of save one person. It's just funny watching him and Cyborg trying to get people out. And he's, here, then he's there, then he's here, then he's there. Like, come on, it was taking so long. So I was like, I'm coming. And then we get this great moment where everyone's out there and debris starting to fall, and the Flash just goes through.
A fantastic translation of his powers.
If you pause it at the right time, you will see that Barry Allen has a moment where he stops to watch what's happening and then continue onward. Like, it is incredible showing of his abilities.
And he has a great moment too, to speak to his maturity as well, because before they engage anyone, Bruce speaks of stick together, and then everyone starts going off on their own. Cyborg goes after protecting his father. Diana goes after Steppenwolf, and Barry is just, this is not working together. And he calls them all out. Him working with all of that debris is just absolutely fit. I mean, I have heard so many people hurl accusations at DC and Zack Snyder specifically for not utilizing the Flash's speed correctly, and it doesn't hold up to Quicksilver's one scene in Days of Future Past, and like, you guys really have not paid attention.
No. Well, and the thing about this is that at the end of the day, he has a bunch of powers he's trying to balance through and not allowing for any of them to overshadow another one. And so, like, yes, when they separate, they're going against the plan that was set in place. But if Wonder Woman didn't take on Steppenwolf immediately, Steppenwolf is then just able to run roughshod. And who besides her can actually go toe-to-toe with him? None of them.
Not one.
And it's not like Steppenwolf is like so much stronger than her, but it's just enough.
Yep.
Like, Wonder Woman is losing this fight for sure, but Wonder Woman is in this fight. And I also like how he's kind of taunting her a little bit. Like, it's not just as simple as they're fighting, kicking each other. It's this 9-foot tall being antagonistically is going after her. It's quite wonderful. And also, like, he shows her a sign of respect that most villains don't show to female characters. Name a time when a supervillain showed any respect towards Black Widow or Gamora, or name any other female characters besides Captain Marvel. Even then.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do love the moment that he's like, Alfred's like, yay, the gauntlets work. Celebrate later, Alfred. But yeah, we get this great moment when Barry Allen comes back down Wonder Woman's falling, and
Mhm.
Barry Allen makes his way down to her,
Mhm.
pushes that sword back up to
Yep.
her, gets a little cocky, falls.
Yeah, trips up, but
He doesn't fall on her
yep.
because she lands on her feet
Mhm.
because she is a warrior. That's who she is. And I'll even say it, the first time I watched the movie, I was like, gosh, they're doing the same thing all over again of, that female, cry for part of that song. And it's like, gosh, they keep doing it. But after a while, it's just like, yes, like girl power. Amazon, let's go. Yes. But he does end up cheating. He decides to blow a hole in the tube that they are in, thus causing a tidal wave to come into
Yes.
where they're at, and all hope seems lost until someone comes through the water.
Yes. It's Namor the Submariner.
Yeah. Or Aquaman, because he came
the
first.
Aquaman, Arthur Curry.
Yes. Aquaman comes through, tries to slow down the water. I mean, the water's coming down regardless, but he slowed it down enough for them to get to safety.
Just enough for them to get to the Nightcrawler and get high enough so that they can stay above the floodwaters.
Yeah. But again, we refer to him as Aquaman because he is, but he is not the real Aquaman yet.
Not yet, no.
He's a very young Aquaman still figuring out things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay.
Exactly. Yes, this is still, this is a loose collection of people, yet this is not a full league. This is just a bunch of heroes that are being assembled at this point.
Yeah, exactly. They're not a team. And of course, Steppenwolf goes back to his lair. He is not one, but he is, sidetracked the people. And we learn that there's something on Earth called anti-life.
Mm-hmm.
The anti-life equation.
Yes.
Now, Brett, for those that don't know, what is this?
The anti-life equation is something that Darkseid has always sought. It is effectively the ability to control all of life across the universe, across the multiverse, to the point where you don't kill everyone, but you strip away every sense of free will so that they are completely subjugated to the bearer of anti-life. It is complete and utter domination of everyone, of everything, to one sole individual thought. And in comics lore, the goal is Darkseid. Darkseid is. And that is his goal. That is his one all-consuming goal, is to find the anti-life equation. And it turns out it's on Earth.
And so as he's talking to Desaad, he mentions anti-life, and all of a sudden, Desaad disappears. He's a little confused. Then we see Parademons start bowing. And then Darkseid appears in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And he bows himself, and Darkseid makes it clear. Anti-life is my prize. And after you form the Unity, I'm coming for it.
Mm-hmm.
So we got some real stakes, Brett.
We do. This is no longer just get the mother boxes together. This is, once they're together, Darkseid's on his way.
Right. Now, the heroes don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But what the heroes are aware of right at this moment is that Darkseid is on a league, or Steppenwolf is on a league of power that they're having a hard time dealing with. Because even with an Atlantean, an Amazon, a being that is half machine, and a speedster, they might not have enough strength straight up to take him down.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get this truly amazing scene. We're skipping forward a little bit because Cyborg gets the mother box. He has it, and they're sitting around a table and they're talking about the box. What is the box? What does the box do? And Cyborg's explaining a little bit deeper about what the box actually is.
Yeah.
And in this moment, they're all talking around something that none of them want to say because it's not possible. You can't do what they're all thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I just love that Bailey Allen goes, I don't want to say it, so someone else say it. Someone else say it.
We're
Come
all
on.
thinking the same thing.
Let's
Come
just
on,
say
someone
it.
else say it.
And then he just puts up an image of Superman, this image of hope.
Yep.
And it's like,
because, like I said earlier, the mother box is a change engine. It's neither good nor evil. It changes based on the will of the wielder. And the analogy that Cyborg draws is all the matter in a house that's on fire is the same. It just is changed from timber to ash, from timber to smoke to ash. And so this idea is that we can use the mother box to bring Superman back. He's dead. All of the matter is there. We just use the mother box to bring him back to life.
yeah. It's a crazy thought, but it's almost like this is what was written initially and why they were willing to kill him off in the last movie. In comparing Endgame to this movie, how they get there to bring him back, to achieving bringing him back, is so much smoother than an Endgame using time travel to get the stones.
There's so much of a headache in using time travel and then trying to use time travel and not change anything in time travel.
Ooh, maybe we need to do a series on on the Avengers movies.
Oh, let's keep our Marvel connections right now to a minimum for this three-parter. We've already dipped our toes enough in.
So Lois Lane and Martha Kent end up having a conversation. And basically Martha tries to explain to her of, hey, you need to be willing to step into the light. You still have use. You still can do stuff that you can make the world a better place. And I'm torn on this scene, Brett.
I was too. Every time I've seen it, I've always been torn because the message is very solid, and I can definitely see Martha Kent bringing that message to her.
Yes, but the moment she walks out,
it's not Martha.
Correct.
It is Martian Manhunter, who then takes on the guise of General Stanwyck, who, by the way, all the way back in Man of Steel, I always had my suspicions that Stanwyck was Martian Manhunter.
Sure.
I had no legitimate reason to think that, but that was always in the back of my mind.
You sound kind of robotic. I get that.
But I buy into the message. I can see Martha sharing it. And, Stanwyck and Lois Lane do have a close relationship that we do see in Batman v Superman that grew out of Man of Steel. So I can see even Stanwyck wanting to encourage her as well. So I buy the message. I buy the scene. I am conflicted on it coming from Martha through Martian Manhunter. I'd rather it come from one or the other.
Right. Well, I do get that if Martian Manhunter, who has always been around as this character of the general, if he knew that he didn't have the relationship with her to get this message across, I could understand him thinking, well, the ends justify the means to get her into the light. But it's misusing his powers. Because, you and I both are aware, and sometimes the other people, the general population, aren't fully aware that Martian Manhunter is a powerhouse. He is strong. Yeah. He is not at Superman's level, but he's not far off.
And when you throw in powers that he has that Superman doesn't, that can bring Superman to his knees too.
Right. And so it's like, as great as this moment is, it's almost like this is still another superhero who's not willing to be a superhero yet. He is in the shadows. Yeah. And he needs to be brought into the light. He himself needs to take the message that he is giving. Because he thinks, well, I'm doing enough as this character. What he doesn't realize is that this team that's assembling could really use him. So it's an interesting dichotomy within this as well. Yeah. So if it would have been left alone as just, this is Martha giving this message, great, but the fact is that this was always part of Zack Snyder's plan of to introduce Martian Manhunter in this way. So it is what it is. We signed up for Zack Snyder's vision. We're getting Zack Snyder's vision for this one movie.
Totally unfiltered Zack's vision. And you know, I like I said, I buy into it. For me, almost feels like a hat on a hat, but hey, I'm on board for the ride. So,
and you know, I like that we get this kind of this slight confliction with everyone of like, yes, we need him, but is this really possible? Yes, like in the grand scheme of things, this would be great, but he's dead. Is this right for us to do this? You know, I like that it's this back and forth with each of them. It's not just a Batman saying this is what we're going to do and that's what we're going to do, and only Wonder Woman saying no, we shouldn't do that. It's each of them constantly going back and forth of like, yeah, we need him, but
I mean, all the way up until that last moment and even beyond, where it's this, I told you this was a bad idea, is still on the table. I mean, this is a very human team through and through, even though they are all icons in their very early days. We are still seeing a lot of them starting out as human icons.
So tell me what your thoughts are on them exhuming the body of Superman.
Well, it's not great. Robbing a grave is never a good look. But I mean, it's definitely an ends justify the means type of thing. But better that they got to rob the grave and exhume the body in Smallville rather than the very public resting place in Metropolis. But yeah, kind of funny that they put Cyborg and Flash on the grave robbing detail than anyone else.
I mean, they're the two that have endless energy.
Yes.
I like that they said, you know, we could get this done in seconds, but it doesn't feel right to do that.
Yeah, I did like them pointing that out.
Yeah. I mean, like, not to mix universes, but like, there's a certain death in a series called Harry Potter that Harry could use magic to bury his loved one, but he decides not to. And there's something special in that moment of this is important. This is something that just cannot get done in seconds. We have to take our time with this.
Yeah.
We have to respect this being.
Yeah. And I mean, I will forever be very, very appreciative of franchises that will take that respect, where their characters could, use magic or super speed or whatever plot device to do this, take care of this burial or exhumation in seconds, but they choose to respect the reverence of that element.
Well, you know, and in lieu also of all this too is you have this cargo ship that spaceship that Batman is trying to get going, almost this impossible vehicle, and it's just this thing of they're trying to do so many impossible things all at once, not because they think, well, this would be nice, but because they know they have to. If they don't do these things, it's not going to go well for them. Yep. Because I just was looking ahead and just reading of Bruce Wayne, and you look, Alfred Pennyworth. If by luck you mean chance in hell we're getting this thing flying today, then no luck.
Oh yes, more Alfred sass.
Yes, there's so much Alfred sass in this movie.
I love it.
He's an actual character, and you know, it's just this confliction that they all have is still continuing through. Yeah, I just love. You know, we get this awkwardness of them attempting to break into Star Labs.
Yep. To
go get to the Kryptonian ship, because that's where they have to do it at. And I just love how, well, first of all, they're trying to figure out how Ares should look so that way he looks most military-like. Just those little details of them bonding as a team, you know? And
show me the first one again.
And you see on the inside, too, of, you know, everyone working in Star Labs as well, especially Silas. And also, we keep seeing this Ryan Cho guy. Who is this guy?
Ryan Choi in the DC universe. Well, not originally, but the most popular character known as the Atom was Ray Palmer. In the late 90s, early aughts, around that, early aughts, DC wanted to get a little more diversity in a lot of their characters, and DC likes to have legacy in their characters, and so they'll pass the mantle. And Ryan Choi he took on the mantle of the Atom around roughly the same time, give or take, within a few years, that Blue Beetle passed on the mantle from Ted Kord to Jaime Reyes. And so Ryan Choi, within this universe, would conceivably go on to become a superhero in his own right, who would be able to change his size and density to mostly shrink, but also grow as well, a la Ray Palmer from the CW Arrowverse. But I really love, while we're talking about this break-in, I really love the moment where Silas sees that the team is breaking in under the guise of a biohazard that Silas knows is a ruse. That mid-attempt to alert the MPs that it's a ruse, he sees Victor and just, without a word, just a look, sees Victor, Batman, and from his perspective, a guy with a trident, a guy wearing a highly competitive speed skating suit, and Wonder Woman. No one he knows or conceivably could know to trust, but he sees Victor carrying the change engine, setting up this ruse of a biohazard to get everyone out. He trusts him enough to let the ruse happen.
Yeah.
Whether that's guilt or just trust that he knows something important needs to happen. I like that moment.
I do too. And, you know, I like how he also says, you know, no one comes in unless I give the order. They can.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are moments away, Brett. We're moments away from Superman returning, and there is concern.
Mm-hmm.
There's concern from Aquaman. I'm pretty sure Wonder Woman is nervous. Batman is definitely nervous, but he knows the job needs to get done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I will say this is the time when he's like, no, we're doing this. We're here. It's happening. Let's go.
Yeah, no backing out now.
Yes. You know, because he does have a little bit of, there is no us without him. We have to have him back.
Yeah.
And I think everyone else knows that too. And I like how they're trying to figure out, like, what do? We need a current. And he's like, well, she's like, I get close to the speed of light. And just weird things happen with time. And it's setting up towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's setting up of when he hits a certain speed, things get weird.
Yep.
And I like that. And I love, as we watch this, now, it's not too dissimilar from what happens in the original version.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's so much better.
It is.
And so we also are setting up right before this happens that Lois Lane is going back over by the statue. She is in that area in this moment.
One more time. That visit with Martha yesterday was enough to convince her, you know, after this one more time, it's time to get back into the world.
Yes. And so, of course, they start counting down. They're about ready to go. And Victor has a vision.
Mm-hmm.
The mother box / the Kryptonian ship together kind of communicate to Victor of, if you do this, this is the future. And you see Darkseid just wrecking the Earth, wrecking the Justice League, and making almost a hell on Earth. If you do this, this is what will happen. And so Victor gets concerned. He says no. But of course, in good goofy fashion, no and go are very similar. So he says, go? Okay. And weird things happen. And then this pitcher falls out, and you're like, oh no, this pitcher. And then the pitcher starts rising, Brett. And so does the mother box. And the mother box is just millimeters away. And it's just right at the right moment. And the flash touches it. And just kaboosh.
Kaboosh.
And out of that kaboosh comes the Man of Steel.
Resurrection.
Yeah. One of the craziest moments in a DC movie. Of course, it was wasted on the original version, but the Man of Steel
is back.
Floats again. And he floats over to the statue, and we have an incredible fight between Aquaman, Cyborg, Wonder Woman, Flash versus
and
Superman.
A lot of this fight is, there's not a lot in the fight that is different from Justice League to the Snyder Cut. A lot of the same beats are there. There is some cutting that is different. There is some pacing that is different, but a lot of the footage is still there.
Right. A big difference is they are still trying to save people around them.
Yes. There are some brief scenes like Cyborg saving a cop from a vehicle coming at him is not in the Justice League. There's some other elements here and there. Superman slowly advancing towards Batman and everyone else kind of getting in the way. I don't remember that being as prominently cut together.
It wasn't as terrifying. I don't think.
And that's probably why I don't remember it as prominently featured. But it's largely the same, but it carries so much more weight in Zack's vision.
Well, and he's so quiet.
Yes, he does not talk.
He is a wrecking machine in this moment.
He does not say a single word through this entire sequence.
And I have to mention this because this was my favorite moment in the original theater release. And I sat there going, gosh, this is so incredible. I don't know how they did this, but it's that moment when the Flash is trying to run around and you just see Superman watching him.
See that eye turn and Barry realized that there's something different here.
Yes, just the fear of Superman seeing his safe place. Because regardless of what we think about Barry Allen, regardless of what we think about Superman, the fact that Superman can almost play in this place that he thought he could be safe from him is just incredible. And I can't remember how the fight goes exactly with Justice League, but just he is trying to get away from him as quickly as humanly possible. Superhumanly possible.
Oh, yes.
And like he tries to push off of him, and that is what hurts him because he tries to push off and he then goes back and falls.
Yep.
And so it's just this, it truly is this incredible scene of just all these powers on display and none of them can truly hurt him. Even Wonder Woman, who's able to throw it back at him, Superman can still one-up her. So it's just this incredible display. I'm a little weary of why Batman didn't have a little kryptonite on hand, just in case, but Brett, this is the first time we got to say it. Movie's got a movie.
Movie's got a movie. Yeah. I mean, I can make, it's very possible he didn't have any left after Doomsday, but I mean, he kind of used all that chunk.
He did.
It's very possible, but I mean, he didn't exactly go into this fight looking to take him down either.
No.
But yeah.
Yeah. Just this is just an incredible moment of fandom, of just putting on full display of the league that Superman is.
Yeah,
in
and
raw
none of
power.
these guys are looking to do anything more than contain him while
Correct.
they try to help him remember who he is.
Right. And, you know, they even try to use the lasso of truth on him to try to...
Which seems to jumpstart a little bit, but not enough.
Right. I agree with that. And we jokingly talked about this before, but just that annoyance of, Alfred, send in the big guns.
Oh, man.
It's a choice that Lois Lane makes.
Yeah.
It's the choice of my love, my world is alive, and the part of him that everyone feared is out right now.
I'm going to go put myself in the middle of this.
Right. Because it's not him.
I'm coming in because I've been summoned. It's...
Right.
Yeah.
I choose to get in the way. It's just... It's a beautiful moment. And the fact that Joss Whedon, I'm going to blame him for this solely, tried to take that away from her is just kind of repulsive in a way.
Yeah, it is.
Because we have the strong moment of Lois Lane putting herself in danger because he's currently a wrecking machine. And maybe he doesn't recognize her. Maybe he kills her.
Yeah, and she's putting everything, all of her hope and in her trust. Her hope, again, there's that thread. Her hope that he will recognize her and that will be enough to break him out of this.
And they fly away.
Yep.
we end after they fly away, and you're like, okay, that's it, okay. And Aquaman is very upset with Barry Allen because he knocked him out.
Just points at him.
I'm so sorry.
So sorry. I love how Zack manages to bounce Barry as a fully formed human with an arc, with maturity and immaturity, with depth, and still is able to balance and play that off as the comedic relief. And still have him be the believable hero he is.
Yeah. And then we get to probably one of the most heartbreaking scenes. A boom tube comes in and it disappears, and they say the mother box has been taken. Oh no. Sorry,
Not quite.
wrong movie. Steppenwolf comes down. Everyone's distracted. He comes through. He's looking for it. Discovers that it was not where it was supposed to be, because whenever Superman was touched, the mother box kind of kablooied and went
it woke
elsewhere.
up, and that's what they could only sense it until it woke.
Right. And so he was going after it, and was in Star Labs and is wrecking the crap out of place. And Silas goes and takes it to a machine, and you think, oh, maybe he has a way to hurt it, destroy it, something. Nope. That man sacrifices himself.
He did, because this is the laser that earlier on in the movie they used to superheat another element to effectively the same temperature of the molten core. So, you know, the Silas knows that this is not going to destroy the mother box, but he knows it's going to effectively tag this as the hottest item on the face of the earth. But it's going to come at a cost to him, because it's going to refract this laser all over the place in this chamber. Now, I do think initially he was thinking he might have time to get out of that chamber, but once he saw that first axe swing, he did not for a second hesitate, and he shut that door. Right.
Well, it's that, do I save myself, or do I make sure my son has a fighting chance? And he proves his love to his son by his final action.
Yeah.
It's not to make peace. He's not trying to do this as a way to get out of jail free. It's him saying, I was always willing to do this for you.
Yep.
One could argue that those late hours is one of the reasons why they're able to develop this laser to begin with. You know, it's just, what puzzle pieces had to come into play so that way this could be the case. We'll never know, because we didn't write the movie. But it's just this fantastic display of a father's love for his child.
It really is.
Because he knows his son is able to go find it. And he, along with the people he's with, should be able to go take care of this.
Yes.
And I love that you have Cyborg go through the range of emotions of, I lost my mom. I've lost my dad. Now what?
Mm-hmm.
What is left for me to do? And I love also, we're skipping ahead a little bit, but Aquaman is very concerned for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they realize of where everything is going to be, Aquaman is very concerned of, this is a kid who just lost his dad, and we're asking him to go face his demons.
Yes.
What we're asking of this child is too much.
Yep. And I mean, virtually everyone on this team you've got Batman lost both his parents in front of him to a gun. Barry lost his mother to a murder, his father to accusation of the murder. Wonder Woman has been effectively exiled from Themyscira. Aquaman never knew his mother and has been living with, only knew his father.
His father is also a drunk, so he had to take care of him quite a bit.
And now you've got Victor, who lost his mother and now his father within the span of, we figure, maybe weeks, a handful of weeks. So you have every member on this team carrying at some level trauma from losing one, if not both parents, if not more trauma from their parental relationships. Mm-hmm. And that is your motivating factor in, now we're going to go save the world.
Yeah. Well, and I love that it's after they realize of what Silas did that they're like, oh, well, all we got to do is use a satellite to figure out where the hottest point of the whole planet is now.
You have a satellite? I have 6.
I have 6. I'm rich. But it's in all of this. It's in this darkness. It's in all these moments that we still have these little lights of humor, of little lights of hope. Mm-hmm. It truly is. It's almost like there's been a candle in this movie this whole time. Mm-hmm. And it's just a matter of how close these guys have been to this candle, how much light they're able to see. Because depending upon where your perspective is, a candle's light can be super bright or super low. Mm-hmm. And I love, you see it's also in these moments of this team truly becoming closer. It's through their failures. It's through this loss that, and having empathy for one another and sympathy for one another, that they're able to be like, okay, we need to be more for each other. We have to actually work together. Mm-hmm. If we don't actually work together, we will lose and the world will end. This is not as simple as just one of us needs to do this or one of us needs to do that. Well, we just need Superman. Once we have Superman, all of our answers will be fixed. Well, Superman bailed. Maybe we won't have Superman. So it's just these arrays of emotions that these guys have to go through, and they're heroes, and they have no choice but to keep moving forward.
Yep.
And not to make an Avengers comparison, but there's a loss in the Avengers movie that motivates the team to push forward and to stop being immature and all that jazz. And the difference between this one and that one, in my opinion, is that this one hits home because it's someone's dad.
Yeah.
And you're watching as someone who had complicated emotions dealing with this and grieving this loss. And it wasn't just some random person that they all knew. Mm-hmm. The audience had a connection more to Coulson than a character did.
And to be frank, I never. I'll be frank. I never bought Coulson as a gelling moment for the Avengers. They could have had a better
There was blood on the baseball cards, Brett. The Captain America baseball cards.
They could have had a better motivation for that.
Anywho, I'm not here to talk about the Avengers. That's
No,
for
we're
another
not.
podcast
No,
day.
we're not. That is.
But I love that we have this little moment between Lois Lane, Clark Kent, eventually his mother as well, but of them coming together and seeing everything.
Finally, the memories are back. He remembers who he is, and
It's like he wakes up and he is himself again. But very confused why things are different.
Yes.
This is also around the same time, though, that everyone officially meets Alfred.
Yes.
And Bruce
I work for him.
introduces him as, yes, this is Alfred. I work for him. I'll put on the tea. It's badass Alfred.
Yeah.
And there's a moment in Justice League that I do appreciate because they do it in the Batcave and they don't really mention that they're in the Batcave, but technically they're in the Batcave in this moment.
Yes.
But I do love that the Flash runs around like, oh my gosh, this is so great.
That is.
It's like the one thing he added that like is actually good, but still he's happy to be there.
I did appreciate that. Yes.
Although Barry is just trying to find food at this point because he's probably starving. His black hole.
This snack hole needs some calories.
And, I like that there's some self-doubt that's starting to creep in. Self-doubt, Barry saying, this guy's probably thought thousands of other beings with superpowers and other planets, and he's one. What's to stop him from us? And it's like, I don't care how many demons he's fought, how many hells. He's never fought us. Not us united. And I think this is finally him turned into that coach, of, hey, you have your abilities, you have your abilities, you have your abilities. What's the difference between all of us? We just haven't worked it out yet. We haven't figured out our place. And so it's just these great moments as we're getting ready for this battle, this culmination that's taken so long. And even though there's been other fights throughout this movie, we know that we're preparing for that end game, that end battle that is so beyond anything else we've had to deal with so far. It's going to take literally every bit of energy and power they all have. It's so exciting. It's just so funny to me that in the original theatrical cut, it's, literally within an hour and a half, you're there. So you don't feel like you've earned the ending. You don't feel like you've been with these characters. You've dealt with these traumas and these things and these roadblocks. And now we're at that point of it's either we take him down or we don't. And luckily there's no lasso of truth moment where he is spilling his guts.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Let's make Aquaman be a surfer bro.
But I will say I love that one of the things that our friend Cyborg stumbles upon is that flying machine, that flying engine.
Yeah, I mean, he mentioned earlier that give him a few hours, and he talks to intelligence. He doesn't talk to machines; he talks to intelligence. And give him a couple hours, and she wants to fly. Give him a couple hours; he can figure out how. And he's cracked it, and I like the exchange that Bruce and Victor have on the lift as they're heading up to the Flying Fox. I can't remember exactly what Bruce tells him, but I figured you'd have it pulled up there.
Well, I'll start from this. Bruce Wayne says to Victor, "You fixed it. It wanted to fly. Flight's in its nature. Yours too." And then he says to Alfred, "He'll be here, Alfred. I know it." Alfred, what makes you so sure? Faith, Alfred. Faith.
And I know there was a large contingent of fans that had a problem with Batman having the gall to utter the sentence of "I have faith," Alfred, because Batman over the years, since the 70s, maybe the 80s, has not been a character that has been written to have faith in anything beyond what he can control. But within this universe, within the story that he has been through between Batman v Superman and Justice League, this is a character that's grown to rely on other people. And we have seen him just in this movie go from the general who would just bark orders and have no clue how to be a coach, how to be a part of a team, to learning how to need to rely on other people. And I mean, he started this because of a promise he made to Superman on the battlefield that he would not let his death be in vain. And now he's brought this man back to life, and he needs to have faith because that's what needs to happen. Mm-hmm. And he believes it. And you know what? I buy into it.
Yeah, it's one of those scenes that gives you goosebumps, because this is not the Batman that we met in Batman v Superman. Yeah. This is a Batman who has been through a journey and has taken him time to accept that, hey, we can't win unless we have him. And we're going into this with I'm going into this with full trust that at some point he's going to show up. And if I have to die before he gets there, that's fine. If I have to die, I'll die. But, you know, I think he'll be there. I think the goodness in him is going to come out. We did the impossible. Mm-hmm. Now we just have to wait for him to wake up.
Yeah. I mean, they already saw that Lois was able to get through to him. So,
And, you know, again, there's a machine that engineers at Wayne Tech couldn't get to work. Alfred, who is a whiz at all things electronics, couldn't get it to work. Bruce Wayne, who is not as good as Alfred, but, you know, he can think differently, critically think, and, you know, work through stuff. He couldn't figure it out. But Cyborg was able to figure out in hours. You know, you have all of these abilities around him. He knows in the scene and watched, and he's like, this is all beyond me. I have to trust that this is going to work out. Because if I doubt, then what hope do these other guys have that it's not going to work out? Yeah. So it's just this great moment of we're seeing a different side of Batman. And it's the side we need to see. I don't mind seeing a Batman who is willing to be hopeful and not just brood. Because Alfred was right. Maybe a man who spent 20 years brooding is not meant to be a recruiter. If it's the Batman that was, yes, you're right. This is a different type of Batman. He is becoming a version of himself that can take on maybe a new Robin, take on multiple, you know, Robins and Batgirls and a Red Hood and Nightwing, you know, and actually have a Bat family. Wouldn't that have been a thing to have a great Bat family movie? But it's just there's so much more that can be done through this Batman now. He's more than just the brooding, beating up guys on the street guy. More than just the psychos in Gotham. You know, he's willing to take on a god, essentially. And he doesn't know that there's a bigger, scarier god behind that.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, but the fact that he's still at the end is willing to stand in front and look him in the eyes with Superman and his team in tow going, bring it. It's something special. Yeah, I love that line. It's also just the swelling of the music in that moment, too, is quite on point. And can we take a moment, Brett, and just say that the music in this movie is just spectacular. You feel things in this movie as you're watching it that you don't normally feel when you're watching a movie. And I know I heard all these rumors about this Junkie XL and, oh my gosh, how can you trust this Junkie XL? And I was like, I don't know who this person is, but if Zack Snyder trusts him and willing to go with this guy, I'm willing to give him a chance. And no offense to the guy who did the original one, but I never felt anything. I didn't get the goosebumps, maybe once, but it's just, with this, I always felt like I was feeling something, like I was a part of it.
Yeah, Danny Elfman stepped in to do the score for Justice League, and you know, he was very, very bold and declarative that they were going to bring back the John Williams score for Superman and his own score for Batman, and you know, they weren't going to incorporate the Hans Zimmer stuff that he had already done throughout Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. And I felt that was a bad move musically. And the score we got for Justice League is very bland. I'm huge into music. If you look through my my Apple Music library or my it's been digitized, so they're in a tote now, but my huge tote of CDs that are at home, I have a very large collection of orchestral scores from movies and TV shows. And a movie for me will often live or die a lot based on its score. And without Hans Zimmer, the Zack Snyder verse could be very tenuous. But bringing Hulkenberg on for Zack Snyder's Justice League cut, he did a very solid job of being able to bridge that gap between what we had already and bring in his own perspective and give us a theme for this United Justice League. And so, I mean, he did a fantastic job. I'll credit him. This soundtrack, this score lives in my Apple Music library on a regular rotation. There are a few key tracks that I will readily pull up and just listen to while I'm driving if I feel like I need a little encouragement, a little push to get jazzed for something. Hulkenberg is joined the list of composers that I will look for albums for here and there on a regular basis.
So, the whole time throughout this movie, anytime they're going in a situation, they never really have a plan. And so they're on their way and they lay out this plan. They have to destroy the dome so that way they can get in there. And they're like, well, what if the dome isn't destroyed? The dome will be destroyed. Okay. And then, they're like, okay, and Victor will get attached into the Unity, and then he'll be able to, mess with that. And then, Barry, what are you doing? I'm going to use the power of love.
Very.
Catastrophic surge of energy. So it's just there. I just love this moment. And then he's like, okay, yes, let's just recap. He's like, we finally have a plan.
Yes. Use the power of love. And
then we have, again, just this another emotional moment. This slow walk that Superman has as he, hears. It's almost like he's remembering all the things his fathers have said to him.
Mm-hmm.
It's like when he came back online, for lack of better wording. It's like everything was more clear to him. So he's going through all these things his fathers have said to him over the years, the hopes that they have for him. I mean, I can read through them, but they'll take for a little bit too long. So
the best pieces of advice that they gave him I mean, you can hear them in the trailers for the movies. You can hear them in you can go online on YouTube and find clips of a lot of these. But they're what you would expect to hear in a Superman suit up montage as he's getting ready to fly off. And I mean, they're exactly on point. And, he suits up.
Well, and it is a retelling of him becoming Superman because he steps out of the Kryptonian ship just like he does in Man of Steel. And he flies. He doesn't struggle. He just flies. And I love how he flies straight up by the sun. He breathes in that sunlight. He's getting direct contact with it. And he's ready to go. It's such powerful imagery. And it's really hard to truly describe, and I know we're not doing it justice because you need to be watching it yourself.
This is an audio podcast. Take a break and go watch it. I mean, really,
I don't know why you're listening to us. Just go watch the movie.
I mean, really, we're 2 hours in. Go watch.
Literally, we're almost to the big part. Yes. So they're trying to take it down. Batman is trying to take down the tower. He is successful. However, he crashes the giant ship that they just got
up and running.
But it's okay because there's a Batmobile in there.
Oh, yes.
And he takes off on the Batmobile and he's going down the tracks.
Destroying everything in the way, getting the parademons to follow him.
Luckily, he doesn't need this noise to get them attracted to them. He he's a nuisance and he's a problem.
He's the one that came in and took out the tower, so that is enough.
Yeah, right.
That is more than enough to get Steppenwolf's attention and get all of the parademons to follow him.
Mm-hmm. And I love that we have this moment of he's in the Batmobile and all the other superheroes join around him because they're a team.
Yep.
And probably it wasn't the full plan for him to get help, but they're like, well, we're on the way. Let's all work together. Let's all get there.
Yeah.
And we even have that kind of cheesy, slow-mo, all the superheroes all at once, but it works.
It does. It's not something that you would expect to see, but it works.
Yeah, it does. But it's these 5 beings that are all united, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes through, but also it's able to breathe. Mm-hmm. There's no corny lines coming through. This isn't the plan. No, it's the team. Nothing needs to be said. It's all visual. It's all there. And I love how you then get that moment of him being Aquaman's on the car and he's looking at him like, you are crazy.
You're out of your mind, man.
And then he does something even more crazy. He just straight up takes on some parademons out of the sky. Just the whole way through is just fantastic.
It is. It is a beautiful symphony of just insanity.
Yeah, that's the best way to put it.
Every member of the team is showcased. They have their strengths put on display. They each have a role to play, and they are, to the best of their abilities, successful. And you know, a lot of this battle is, it's amazing to me how much of this battle is the same fight footage that we see in Justice League, but is an entirely different story.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to me just how different the story can be at this point and still be seeing so much of the same footage.
Yeah.
But
there is not, this is like the one part of the movie where there's not a whole lot of difference. However, it's just, you feel a difference. Mm-hmm. You feel hope. You feel this, you know, we're on this last hurdle to get to Steppenwolf, that final stance. Like, we are on our way. This is the return of the kings. We're at the Pokemon Championships, okay?
Oh, now you lost me.
But I gained a few people with that one. But yeah, Cyborg, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, all stand in front of him, ready to throw down.
Yep.
And I love that they're actually using their powers together to mess with Steppenwolf and do him damage. Now, I will say that I noticed this in the Joss Whedon cut, that all of a sudden his eyes are glowing. I didn't understand what the deal with that was. I take to mean that because he is unifying them, he's almost gaining a strength that he didn't have before. So it's almost like we're dealing with a little bit more souped up version of himself, potentially. But it still doesn't make it really clear in this version either. All we know is that he's still a tough pill to swallow.
Oh, yes.
So even though they're working together, they're doing what they can, they still are not cracking the armor, if you will, of this guy. He still has a leg up on all of them.
Until a certain someone shows up and is not impressed.
No. Superman shows up without a whole lot of quips and just starts laying the beat down on him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's not even fair.
It's not. He shows up, he stops the axe that was intended for Cyborg's back, freezes it, and just says, not impressed, shatters the axe, and just starts going to town, wailing on him. I mean, and that's the tipping point.
Yeah. It's incredible just how much he outclasses him.
Mm-hmm.
And strength alone, he just cannot do anything, Steppenwolf.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a part that I love in this is that he is so much ahead. Everyone kind of stops their fight. They're like, well, the job's done. Everything's good. But they're not there to defeat and kill Steppenwolf. That's not the end of the story.
No.
If you take your eye off the prize or what they're there for, they're going to still lose. And unfortunately, Barry gets knocked out. Cyborg can't enter the Unity. And the world's over. Everything's done. And we all go home sad.
Yeah. Well, we all die.
Yeah. The world that they predicted comes true.
Except Barry, because Barry gets one of the parademons manages to just get off this lucky shot because he's tracking Barry and manages to shoot just in front of him and tag him enough to knock him out. So he can't come in when he needs to with that burst. But at that moment when the Unity happens, Barry's able to phase into the Speed Force. And that moment where he needs to break his rule to not go into overdrive.
He needs to make something weird happen.
He needs to make something weird happen. He needs to basically turn back time and run back everything. And it is single-handedly one of the most profound scenes in a superhero movie that I've seen in over 20 years. And it is one of the most constantly played music cues from the score that I have in period that I regularly play. And it is just a perfect visual feast for about 90 seconds to 2 minutes here, where we see Barry do something absolutely amazing. And we get some inner monologue with him where he's just talking to his dad as he does something that no one on this earth has ever done in this Zack Snyder universe. And it's simply amazing.
Yeah. I mean, you watch as every single step he is able to recreate the world as it was just seconds before everything fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is literally bringing, like, everything is destroyed. The bad guys won. And he is reversing that in real time right this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just incredible to watch just how much power is behind this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he is going so fast that it puts to shame the the moment in the Superman movie when he reverses time by going around the earth, blah, blah, blah. But he is truly stopping the world from being destroyed in this moment. And
with every step, you see more and more be put back.
Yeah. With the musical key, there's just hope with every single step.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually you get to this wide shot where you're watching as the world is coming back together. And you're just wondering, how is this possible? Like, I'm not that far removed from all this as it's been time since they originally released it in 2020. As you know, gosh, they first did it in 2000. They started a lot of this in 2015. So for the fact that even for a movie that's 3 years old, for the CGI to look as good as it does is impressive, because not every superhero movie looks good 2-3 years after it comes out. There's very few that really stand up and hold true, and there's a lot of good CGI in this movie. To make this what it is just incredible. It's incredible for the storytelling, it's incredible for the visuals, it's incredible for the CGI, it's incredible for the music. And say what you want about Ezra Miller, but he's a good actor.
Yeah.
He does well in this moment.
Yes.
You feel his emotions. You feel his journey is truly coming into play right now.
Yeah.
of what his dad said to him, how it resonates him. This is truly, Brett, a movie, in my opinion, about parenting and how we deal with how we were parented and are still being parented.
Yeah, like we mentioned, every one of these members of the Justice League is here in large part because of where their parents had brought them, intentionally or not. And I know a lot of people have a hard time separating the artist from the art. And I understand if you are one of those people who can't. And there are times where I will have an impossible time separating the artist from the art. But this is one of those times where I can separate the artist from the art. And, Ezra's time as Barry Allen was a very well done time, a very well done character. And this moment is gold.
Yeah, this is, of all the moments in DC, I would say that this moment right here is the greatest they've ever done. They've ever put to screen. Including all of the original Superman, all of the original Batmans, the Dark Knight trilogy, which we both love so much. None of the things they did holds a candle to this. And I don't know what happened in the Flash movie, but I'm assuming that even what happens in the Flash movie doesn't even compare to this moment.
You wouldn't be wrong.
Because again, it's not just this moment. It is all of the build up to this moment. All this emotion behind it, this journey that we've been on, and that feeling of almost being robbed the first time you watch it, of like, oh my gosh, they still lost. How's that possible? And you know, there's a part of you that wondered, like, I wonder if they'll do that. They won't do that, will they? It's like, oh my gosh, they're doing it. But I'll end this moment just by reading off what he says. It says, Dad, whatever happens, I want you to know your kid was one of them, one of the best of the best. So regardless if he ends up dying in this moment, I guess he's trying to put out there of like, if these words somehow get to you, just know your kid wasn't a waste of space. Your kid didn't waste his life away.
Yeah.
He used the abilities he had to do good. He was there. He tried his best.
Yep.
So it's just, again, all part of it. It's weird because as emotional as it is, as fulfilling, as great as that is, we then get to another emotional moment. And this is the emotional crux of this movie. Something that, I know Snyder was very public about online about of what Cyborg truly means to this movie. And it's this moment as he's watching in front of the Unity, and they're saying, we can make you whole again. We can make you right again. We can make you again. And they keep referring to him as broken. And I just love how he says, I'm not broken.
Yeah, I'm not alone. I'm not broken.
Yeah. And for so many people out there dealing with thoughts of suicide, dealing with darkness that they can't overcome, it's a moment like this that if we can help people see and understand, gosh, Cyborg is a representation of finding fulfillment in what is your life. He can be hope. So it's just this incredible moment, and he fights back, and Superman comes along and helps him to break it up. Luckily, his toes aren't hurting, though. But Brett, can you describe what happens right after this? Fear, right? Fear has something to do with it?
Fear, yeah. And fear. Well, after the Unity is interrupted, we get lovely completion of the battle with Steppenwolf. He is very quickly skewered by by the trident and sent packing through the boom tube that was opening to Apocalypse, San's head. And we get our first glimpse, and sadly only glimpse, of Darkseid face to face with the Justice League.
Yep.
Darkseid and Desaad have a conversation. Boom tube closes. Darkseid and Desaad have a conversation about, the mother boxes are dead. How are we going to, get the anti-life equation? And well, we're going to go to the old ways. Get the armadas ready. We're on our way to Earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also I do love seeing the stained glass of Darkseid. We get to the closing, if you will, of him rereading or listening to the recording that his dad made him, and it's almost like that. These are the last words I'm going to have from him. I need to actually listen to these.
Mm-hmm.
So he puts it back together, and he starts to speak to him about trying to help him understand and see where he was coming from, and help him to not just see it as this is the scientist speaking to you, but this is Dad who's hopeful for you, and know that you will make the right choices, and know you'll do good with these abilities that you've been granted. And he's sorry. He wished this didn't happen to him, but he knows he's going to make this world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the team kind of closing out of Barry gets the job with Central PD. It looks like Bruce wants to use the old Wayne Manor as potential Justice Hall.
Mm-hmm.
You see Ryan Choi become the new head of Star Labs.
Yeah.
You see Clark back at home.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently Bruce Wayne bought the bank.
Yep. Bruce is Martha is able to move back into the house that is getting repairs made on it, and Bruce is just fixing a mistake. And fun little moment. How did you get this? How did you get the house back? Bought the bank.
Mm-hmm. Congratulations are in order.
Yeah, because
Lois is pregnant.
Lois, yeah.
We'll talk. Let's wait till the third time. I saw that look in your face. We need to wait till part 3 to talk about that.
Yes, we do. This one's been long enough.
Yes, it has. And we end with Superman turning a corner and flying off into
the sky, ready to save more of the world.
Yeah. Now, dear friends, there is more to this. We after this we immediately go to the jail where Lex is, but we've talked enough about this movie. If we've not convinced you to truly watch this yet, by golly, I don't know what will. But just from Scream to Chest flying off, a journey we have gone through.
Oh yes.
Even us just talking about this journey we went along. But I'm happy we did it.
Yeah.
Because it's important to talk about this movie, not just in the context of, hey, they put out Snyder Cut, the Snyder Bros are finally happy. They're not. We'll talk about that next time. But it's just this movie deserved the right to be talked about in its fullest.
Mm-hmm.
And we're in a Dad's Meet World, this sucker. In just a minute, we'll do what we normally do of what we learned and the grade that we're going to give. But for right this moment, just I sit in appreciation for Brett that he was willing to have this conversation with me. For you who is still with us listening, thank you, because this movie, it meant a lot to me when it came out, and I'm so happy it did. I'm so happy that there's other people that love this movie like I do. Brett's one of them. I know that for sure.
That's right.
I don't need to know what his grade is. I know he loved it. And for you who's willing to still be here right now, just thank you so much.
That's right. Thank you, good-looking people.
Yes. So I can't say that's a movie yet because the movie technically isn't over. But this is the end of part 2.
That's right.
If we can close this part, Brett, though, with our what did we learn? And then our grade.
So much. Well, let's see. Let's pull this one. What did we learn? Be present with your kids when you have the chance because you don't know how much time you will have with them.
Yeah.
And your time with them will impact them more than you will know.
Yeah. I think the thing that was reinstated for me is you need to give your parents grace. Because ultimately everybody's just trying to do their best. And, at the end of the day, as a father myself, I can only do my best. And I know there's days where I fail, and my oldest son looks at me. My youngest is happy with whatever happens, but my older son looks at me kind of just disappointed of like, well, why couldn't we do these fun things? Why didn't these things happen? It's like, buddy, I'm trying my absolute best right now. Like I really am. He goes, it's okay, Daddy, I love you. And it's just, we're doing this face to face, and our boys are sharing a room, and my son's trying to be so big and trying to be like, it's okay, Daddy, you don't have to put me to bed. And it's like, well, don't grow up too fast. I like putting you to bed.
I like the grace, but don't me too much.
Right. Like, can I give you a hug and kiss? Fine. So yeah, just give your parents some grace because they tried their best. I know not every parent is perfect, and not all of our parents from this movie was perfect. That's for sure. But for your parents that did their absolute best, give those people grace. Oh boy, we'll have to talk about Shazam at some point. So Brett, I'm just curious. I have an idea, but what would you grade this movie?
Zack Snyder's Justice League, that honestly gets an A+ for me.
That's an A+. This is the peak of the DCEU. There's an argument of, is this better than The Dark Knight? But, this is just
honestly
incredible.
It's comparing apples and oranges
It
to
is.
me.
It's completely different.
You can't compare one to the other because they're completely different animals. But there are things that I don't necessarily agree with as that I would have made the choice, but I'm not the director, I'm not the writer, and they don't distract from me from my enjoyment. And so, it's a solid A+ for me.
Yeah. And this movie still could have been an A+ with cutting out many pieces so that way
Oh yeah.
It all just went faster. But still, this is a great movie.
I'm one of those weird people who like longer movies that have an opportunity to breathe. So
yeah, there's a lot of breathing. There's points of a little too much breathing.
This movie got a lot of oxygen.
Yes, it did. But still thankful. So yeah, we're gonna end it here. There will be a part 3, where we need to finish because there's still a little bit left of the movie that we're gonna have to talk about, and some thoughts on DC on the whole right now from when this movie came out, what we know of what's going on, and I think we're gonna have a really interesting conversation. This is by far going to be the longest part of all this series, but that's okay. Yes. So join us next time for part 3, where we finish up Snyder's Cut and probably talk a little more trash about the Joss Whedon cut.
Oh, undoubtedly, because, you've been telling me to hold in my juice for a couple of parts already. So take it away, future Brett.
Yes, they want you to take the roles.